I leading? I thought you were leading.
Zach, that's you.
Zach, it's your
Me,
cue.
I led last episode.
You said,
You
and I
just said-
quote. You said, and I quote. This is
You
standard.
literally just
You said,
said-
and I quote, right before I started recording. I'll lead it because I
No.
haven't seen this film in a while and I haven't really prepared.
No, I said I'll let y'all lead.
You cut out, I guess.
I was Chase. I heard you say you will lead.
In a court of law, I have won this case. Hello, welcome back to the Closed Screening Podcast. We're wearing the same clothes if you're watching on video. If for some reason you forgot from last episode where I ended the podcast saying we're recording these batched. We're batching these up because next week when we would be recording, I'll be in the Virgin Islands for work. So I could not record from the Virgin Islands, mainly because I don't have any of my setup, and I could not record this on my work little laptop. Today,
Chase, you don't have to
Is-
justify yourself.
also still February 2nd. This episode should
Chase,
come out.
the answer is because we love our audience members and we want to provide as much content for them as possible. That's the true answer.
The true answer is that we love you guys. We want to provide content as much as possible, and the more regularly we upload, the more likely it is people stick around to listen, and that leads us to the ultimate goal of quitting our jobs sooner and recording the podcast for a living. So,
Hey, I'm actually trying to get a second job.
I don't want the job that I have now, unless my boss is watching this, in which case I like my job. Anyway, this episode should come out February 13th. Probably editing will be, as always, just throwing on an intro and an outro. Eventually,
Chase, stop
Zach will
telling
take
your-
over and
plead the
make
fifth.
better
You're
edits.
speaking
of
too
this.
much about our inner workings.
I am bad at editing. Anyway, this episode, if you read the title, I'm probably made it some clickbaity title about the Banshees of Inisherin. Like, I cut off Zach's fingers in this one or something.
Oh, I like
Here's your
that.
thumbnail.
Topical.
Here's
There's
your thumbnail.
I have to really
Hey,
zoom
audience
that in.
members,
All right,
listen to the whole episode because at the end, Zach might not have his fingers.
Yep, every time I talk to Zach, he's gonna go into his kitchen, grab a cleaver, and chop one off. I'm gonna do my best to not reference Zach in this episode at all. I watched this film today. Like, what time is it? It's 10 o'clock my time. I finished watching this film 6 hours ago.
It's fresh. It's fresh.
It's very fresh in my mind. I think I've seen it the most recently of anybody, unless somehow Zach or Nicholas has been fucking sandbagging and they were watching it right before we started recording. So I have a lot to say about it, but also my thoughts have not fully collected. So I might regret some things I say about this film later on. That's okay. I'm a human being, and I'm also kind of dumb when it comes to movies. So, do you want me to do a plot summary, or would anybody else like to take that role?
Please do.
Okay. I have the plot summary on Wikipedia. I was hoping it was a little shorter, and I was just gonna fucking plagiarize. It is very long, so I'm just gonna rip this myself as a goddamn fucking American. Okay, this film centers around the relationship between Parik. I forgot his last name already. Doesn't matter, really. It centers around our main hero, Parik, and his ex-friend, Colm. And they live on the small island of Inisherin off the coast of Ireland. And the film basically starts with Parik going to do what he always does. At around 2 o'clock every day, he goes to Colm's house, and they go to the pub, and they drink into the night, and then they go to bed, wake up, do their daily chores, repeat, right? But today, the day that this film opens on, Parik walks up to Colm's house, says, "All right, Colm, let's go to the pub." Colm ignores him. Parik says, "Let's go to the pub." Colm ignores him. So Parik goes to the pub by himself. Colm shows up a little bit later, won't talk to him, won't sit with him. And then eventually Parik confronts Colm, asks him, "Why won't you talk to me?" Colm's like, I might be skipping some stuff, but my brain is scattered. Colm tells Parik, when asked, "Why are you ignoring me?" "I don't want to talk to you anymore. I don't want to be friends with you anymore. I find you dull." Which is crazy. And so Parik, naturally a little upset by this, asks his sister if he's dull. She says he's nice, and he's not the dumbest person in the village. It's actually the village police officer's son, who is dumb, who I am forgetting his name. Dominic, I believe. Anyway, what else happens? Colm's entire kind of goal throughout this film is to be remembered for something, instead of just having boring conversations with Parik every day, which is later expressed to Parik when he once again confronts Colm. This time, after Parik confronts Colm and Colm tells him he's tired of having boring conversations with him, he says, "Don't talk to me anymore. You talk to me again, I'm gonna chop off a finger." And Parik says, "Okay, won't do it." And then, since Parik is actually dull, eventually he talks to Colm again. Colm chops off a finger, throws it at his door. And then, fast forward a little bit, Parik gets drunk at a bar. Colm basically tells him he's still dull and he doesn't want to be friends with him still, and tries to justify it. And then Parik storms off home. And then what else happens? They talk some more.
Cuts off a bunch of his fingers.
Yeah, they talk some more. Parik finishes the song he's been recording. This is a really disjointed summary. I should not be doing this anymore. Parik talks to Colm later on, after Colm has finished his song, his composition. He's very proud of himself. And then they kind of go back to a sense of normalcy and friendship again. And this culminates with Parik telling Colm he'll go put in an advanced order for them for 2 pints at the local pub. And then Parik also lets it slip that he tried to sabotage Colm's musical career by sending off a musician that Colm was collaborating with, sending him off the island. It's actually a really funny scene. He tells the musician that his father was run over by a bread truck. The musician freaks out and says, "It's crazy that happened. My mom was also run over by the bread truck. If it's the same bread truck driver, I'll kill him." Really good, fun scene. Anyway, and then when Parik lets it slip that he's tried to sabotage Colm's music career, Colm cuts off the rest of his fingers, throws him at Parik's house. Parik's pet donkey, mini donkey, eats a finger, chokes, dies. Parik gets really angry at Colm, burns down his house. That's basically it.
And then there's
some
star-crossed
subplots.
lovers.
Yeah, I wouldn't call them star-crossed
Parik's
lovers.
sisters trying to get off the island and aspire to more, and the village idiot Dominic is, I wouldn't say infatuated with her, but
I think he's
his
infatuated
one
with
scene
women.
that everyone talks about is him asking the sister if she would ever fall in love with a boy like him. And she says no. And then he drowns and dies.
Yep.
It's not funny, but
no, but sequencing it out like that is very funny.
You wouldn't want to fall in love with you wouldn't want to fall in love with a boy like me, would you? No, I don't think I would.
Nope, didn't think so.
So, audience members, like, if you're listening to this, right, this sounds like an incredibly sad story, but obviously, like, we're having fun and we're joking and we're laughing. That's the beautiful dichotomy of this film, is that it is at its core an extremely awful story. Like, I felt so sad for Parik, right, for Colin Farrell's character, but at the same time, this movie made me laugh in ways that I haven't laughed at a movie unless it was like Jackass or like a straight up comedy. Like, okay, that's what I loved about this film.
This film is it's referred to as a black comedy.
There's one joke in the beginning, which I can't remember. So this is kind of shitty commentary. But it was towards the beginning of the film, and Parik said something. And I had to pause the movie because I was cracking up. But I went back and tried to find the joke, and I couldn't find it.
I think I know what joke you're talking about, because I was like, I watched this during work hours. Don't tell anybody. I was working from home today, watching it on that TV behind me. And I was doing my work on my computer, mostly watching this film. And there was a scene where Parik and his sister are talking about letting the donkey inside. Like, letting the donkey, like, roam inside the house. And she's like, I had to clean up little stringy bits of shite. And he's like, and Parik kind of looks at her baffled. And he's like, there wouldn't be stringy bits of shite There would be stringy bits in his shite unless he ate hay. Or, I don't know how the way Colin Farrell delivers line is so funny, and I think it's funnier because maybe 10 minutes earlier in the movie, Colm is complaining about Parek's conversational skills, telling him that he had spent 2 hours talking about different bits that he'd found in his donkey's shit. And so I think it's just, I don't know, it was just a little like fun, like small thing that made me laugh really hard when I noticed it.
I don't think it was that, but
no, but I probably not, but I like that a lot. That was the one thing that really stuck with me.
I guess when you leave the film, it's almost like, I guess the central themes are what should an individual do to be remembered? Is it worth the price of excellence? Which at the end of the day, how is this guy going to deliver his masterpiece of, is he playing a violin? Is it a violin or is it
It's a fiddle. So
it's
yeah.
a fiddle? And Ireland is literally in civil war and you can always hear the gunshots. So I don't know how he expects to be remembered when the mainland has more pressing matters to work with at the moment, and he's on this little town where he seems to be the only one who is indulging in the fine arts because he has to get people ferried in from the mainland to even work with him.
Gosh, and there's but it's so much to unpack. Like what you just said, it's like this idea of like wanting to be more than your circumstances, and this whole movie is centered around this small like outcast fictional island where like to our main character Parik, like it's his whole world is falling apart when literally the outside world in Ireland, the backdrop is the 1923 Civil War, where the world is literally falling apart for them.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
I will say, I think it is interesting that the theme of wanting to be more than your, wanting your legacy, I guess, wanting to leave a legacy, because I came away from this thinking that Colm was looking for any excuse to kind of say like, I tried really hard to leave a legacy, but I can't. Like chopping off his fucking fingers. It just, he can now blame Parik that he can't leave. He can't play his masterpiece. I think.
Mm-hmm. And it's very interesting that we have this Colm, this old man, who has spent presumably his whole life. I don't know what these people do for works. I don't know what he does. Because he literally has a house that's on like the beach, and Parik, at least he's selling milk and other sorts of farming products to like the more town. But you have Colm, who's wasted away basically his whole life on this island, and you juxtapose that with Parik's sister. What's her name?
Siobhan.
Siobhan. And she seems to aspire to the same sort of greatness as Colm does, but she makes an active change to leave the island. So it's almost like she is who Colm either wants to be or regrets that he wasn't. Because even though she's becoming a librarian, she's at least getting off the island, and who knows where that will take her.
Sure. And for me, what I loved about this is that initially with this film, right, you side with Parik because at least I do, because you're like, oh, like, why is Colm being so cruel? Like, this is just like the most cruel thing you can do, and it touches you because you think to yourself, right, if you lost your best friend, like one day you woke up and your best friend just said, I don't want to hang out with you anymore. Yeah, that would be crushing to you. But then as Colm explains himself, right, this idea of I want to be remembered or I need to make something of myself, like I feel like all of us can relate to that in some way, right? Like certainly I know I do. Like there are certain things where like by the time I leave this earth, I would like to be remembered for something. I'm sure Zach, you would, right? Something for film, Chase, you, video games, streaming, whatever it is, we all have that innate sense of like wanting to be remembered, like doing something awesome and great and being above what you can be. So it's like it's this push and pull of like I can't side for like I feel for the both of them, and that's amazing. That's amazing.
Maybe I'm too pragmatic, but I thought Column's view of I guess the way he aspired to achieve his goal. I mean, he wrote that song in what? He wrote his masterpiece in a few weeks, and then obviously it looked like he was gonna get back with Column, like become friends again. It seemed so it felt too binary. I think was my one problem I had with Column's kind of approach to the situation. Is why not make time for Column, or why not make time for Parik, while also trying to compose your masterpiece? Like, it just seems like you didn't have to be so dismissive and so I would just like immediately be like, well, you know what, I have to do this. You are going to impede me in any capacity. You are no longer a part of my life. It's like, why not just make time for both? It seems like there's such an...
I mean, Pork does have the sort of realization when he's having his drunk rambling at Colm,
maybe
where
it
he
was
says,
never nice.
Maybe you were never nice. Oh God, you were never nice.
Mm-hmm.
Where I think we can all sort of identify with, maybe we used to hang out with people who, I don't want to be like elitist or classist, but maybe weren't either the best fit for us or didn't have any ambitions. And I think you can only, if you aspire to do anything, you can only hang out with people that are content with their situations for so long. So if he truly wanted to be Pork's friend, I don't think him wanting to work on his masterpiece would have made him act that way. I don't think he was really ever truly his friend, because it was more of just, I'm on this little island.
Just
I
a
guess
friendship
I would
of
rather
convenience.
sit and talk with somebody while I'm drinking myself silly than do it alone.
Just a relationship formed out of convenience. Then
yeah,
that makes sense.
I'll ask this, and I can certainly look this up, but I don't know if you guys have seen any other performances of his. Brendan Gleeson. This was my first exposure to him. I don't. Has he been in anything else noteworthy?
He was Mad Eye Moody, bro.
You're right. He sure is. Anything else?
That was the only thing I recognized him from was Mad Eye Moody. He was in
28,
Braveheart.
28 Days Later, In Bruges. Oh, him and Colin Farrell were in Bruges together.
Yes, him. Because Martin McDonagh, who directed
and
wrote
we
this,
watched In Bruges.
Yeah, so that was their. That's right. That
he was also in Paddington 2.
Yes, he's in Paddington 2.
Got it. Because obviously, Brendan Gleeson, he has been nominated for Best Supporting Actor along with, I'm sure we'll get to in a second, Barry Keoghan. I thought every cast. I mean, there's really only 4 cast members that we can really speak towards. And gosh, what a year Colin Farrell has had. I mean, this was really the year I discovered him. Like, I haven't really seen him in a bunch of other films besides the Fantastic Beasts movie, the initial one. But his role for me as the Penguin was awesome, and then this one, I think I mentioned it in the Oscar episode we did, but he gets my choice for Best Actor.
Yeah. Which I do. So after Colum and Park are done being friends, and I guess in the middle bit of the movie, Oric seems sort of not content, but almost just, I guess content would be the right word, where he's a little puzzled, but it's right after Colum's cut off his first finger, and then he starts hanging out with Dominic. And then I think we get to see how Colum views Porrick in the way that Porrick views Dominic, in the fact that they are not intellectual peers, and Porrick seems to get very frustrated with the sort of constant girl fever that Dominic has, and how Pork is sort of like, bro, there's no girls out here that want us. Just chill out. There's like 6 girls on this island. So I do think that's a bit of, I think that's what they're going for, is to show that maybe if you were in Column's shoes, how long could you put up with somebody that you couldn't talk about the things that you want to talk about? You only talked about, like you said, Chase, my donkey shit. Like, how many days in a row could you listen to that? And how many days could Pork listen to Dominic talk about girls that he'll never even talk to?
I can think of a certain friend of the podcast. I'll leave it at that.
I'm confused.
No. Hold on. I will text you just so I can. I don't want to. Nicholas, do you get me?
I think I got you.
Yeah, I think Nicholas gets me. I'll just send it in the podcast text. All right.
I was heartbroken to see Barry Keoghan's character ask out Shabam, and that would hurt me. Like his performance. Barry Keoghan, by the way, I know I mentioned this as well. He gets my nomination for the best supporting actor, but everything he does, whether he's in big blockbuster films or like indie films like this, I don't know what his acting method is, but I love Barry Keoghan. Like his character in this was like, I have no words for it. Like it's something I'd never seen him do before, but he played it so well.
I was blown away. Especially the scene, which I think is probably the most impactful scene with his character, when he asked out Shabam, like you were saying. I remember watching that scene in particular and just being like, wow, this kid is acting his ass off. I was heartbroken for him watching that. It's yeah, I don't. There's nothing else to say. Nicholas said it all. I think
the most naturally funny out of all the. I mean, this is a funny film, but obviously his character is definitely more of the slapstick sort of comedy relief, and obviously his character is meant to be sort of that dummy, like extremely dumb character. To really contrast to the other guys.
The moment that you're talking about is an interesting moment for Shabam, which is, like I was talking about before, it's her moment of, am I going to settle to live on the island? Because we don't really, besides Pork, we don't really see many men that are her age. So she could easily settle with Dominic and say, okay, let's go together, or I can move away and leave this place behind me. Which I feel like she'll never see Pork again. That was because I don't think he'll ever leave the island.
I had a bit of a different read on that, because
did you tell?
Maybe I'm getting the order mixed up. Maybe she's already decided to leave.
No, it was, so she walks to the pond right after the night that she goes to sleep crying, and Park is unable to. He notices her just like being upset, and then he asks her what's wrong, and she says nothing, and then he just turns over and goes back to bed. He's not as like heartless as that, but basically he just kind of like slowly rolls back over. And then the next time we see her, she's crying at the lake, and there's a scene probably about 30 minutes earlier when Park is at the post office, I believe, or the general store, and the woman is talking about how somebody's son had committed suicide by throwing themselves into the lake. And so I saw Shabam going to the lake after being distraught and just, having this realization that like she's kind of wasted her life away on this island and is really going nowhere, staying with her brother. And then you see I'm gonna have to look up her name, Miss McCormick, in this kind of, she looks like death. And so
the portender of death.
Yeah. In my mind, I saw it as like Shabam is about to end her life, and just I don't know why, but I kind of saw it as like she was about to end her life, and then Dominic came up, and she kind of is taken out of this state of despair, as they called it. But I could be wrong. That's just kind of how I read it.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think our theories could work together in a way.
Probably.
And then I guess you could say in a way that Dominic sort of wakes her up out of that.
Exactly.
And she's almost like,
I gotta
get out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
The only way to survive is to leave. I'd rather go to the Civil War infested mainland and be a librarian in wartime. Doesn't seem like a very appealing job.
Yeah, I don't know enough about the Irish Civil War to know if they were burning books back then.
This just seems like a job that wouldn't be available during wartime.
Somebody's got to do it, Zach.
Maybe she's lying.
Well, I think she got the job. I think she got it. No, because the I don't know if you remember the
when she
goes to
opened
get
up
her
her
mail.
letter.
Yeah, the lady opened up her letter
Yeah.
and knew it was a. I don't think she's lying about.
We can move on to talk about the ending of the film,
I'm down.
where so Colm has chopped off all of his fingers, thrown them at his house, and Pork's beloved donkey has died, and his donkey was basically his only friend. Had Dominic died by then?
No, it was after he had burned down Colum's house that they found out that Dominic had died.
So he basically only has that one friend, the donkey, he's let in the house, and they hang out in the house together. So his donkey's choked on the finger. So then he decides to set Colm's house ablaze. And then wasn't Colm in the house?
So, sort of.
Rhyme me.
Okay, so he initially tells Colum he's going to set his house on fire at 2 a.m. the following day after he found out his donkey had died. And then he tells Colum that he basically warns him, like, I'm going to burn your house down at 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. tomorrow. I hope you're in the house. He said, leave your dog outside. Basically, I don't remember exactly why, but he said, leave your dog outside. Don't have a problem with your dog. And then we cut, a little later. It's 2 o'clock. He is going over to Colum's house, throwing sticks in the window to burn the house down. And he appears in the window, as he's done many times before in the film, and sees Colum sitting there on his chair. And then a little while later, I think the next day, he is walking near the bay and sees Colum standing there. So at some point, Colum had gotten out of the house.
Okay.
But when he sets it ablaze, Colum is in the house.
But he escaped.
Correct.
And then remind me one more time, is that scene on the beach the last scene in the movie?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is. So.
And they go their separate ways, right?
Yeah. So essentially, Park walks up to Colum. I don't remember exactly what is said. They talk a little bit, and then the part that basically just openly tells the viewer that this movie is an allegory for the Irish Civil War. Like, these two characters' feud is just an allegory for the Irish Civil War. Colum looks to Park and says, I haven't heard gunshots in the past couple days. I think they're finally done fighting. And then Park is, I don't know exactly what he says, but he's like, I'm sure they'll start up again anyway. That's how it should be. And then they chat a little more. Basically, Park says, like, I'm going to fight you until you die or I die, whichever comes first. And then right before Park walks away, Colum says, thank you for watching my dog. And then Park says, anytime. And then it cuts to a wide view of the beach as Colum stays standing where he is, and you see Park walk off. And then that's how the film ends.
What does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean?
I think it's an allegory for the Irish Civil War. That's my hard read on that.
Is it better to be nice? People you don't like, or cut them out and hurt their feelings?
Better to be nice.
In perpetuity? Forever?
Well, I don't think you have to. I think again, my problem is it's too binary. I think you can be nice from a distance. I don't think you have to,
Where it's also a very unique situation where they live on an island.
Exactly.
And it would be impossible not to see them because they're literally running into each other.
But also
just doing their daily tasks.
Like, why couldn't Colum move to the mainland and fiddle with all the other mainland fiddlers?
Maybe he feels special on the island. Because once he moves to the mainland, he's just another fiddler. He's the only fiddler on the island. And he probably feels special when people come to him to play.
Yeah, I guess.
Which, I don't know much about Irish fiddling. I wasn't too blown away by his skills.
Yeah, I was not either.
Yeah.
But if it made him happy, then I guess that was the point of it.
Maybe he can write music a lot better than he can play. That fucking leads to my theory of him just wanting to get an out for not having to play his masterpiece and by just letting chopping off his fingers because of Park.
Well, yeah, maybe he tried to be a professional fiddler on the mainland and it didn't work out.
Never know.
And he's been putting off, or maybe he's just been putting off trying to
be a professional
do
fiddler.
anything.
Yeah.
And then now he has the excuse of, oh, you wrote this masterpiece. Why don't you play it? Oh, I don't have any fingers anymore.
Also, it could be something as simple, kind of like the mythos of Van Gogh. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just like everyone knows Van Gogh cut off his ear. It's almost definitely the third. It's almost definitely that he's just a sociopath. But
I would say, yeah, if you had told me, like, just the basic premise of this film is a friend decides to stop being friends with the guy he's known, forever, and that the film ends with 4 fingers missing from one of the guys, I would have been very confused how we got there.
I will be honest. The entire first act of this film, I the only question I had in my head was why. It just kind of like, why am I don't know, not so much like why am I watching this, but like what is compelled, like it just didn't feel super compelled to watch from the first act. I felt like it was, I understood, like, okay, in a weird way I was very compelled because I was like, this is weird, but I was also kind of like, I need a little more, I need like something, but I don't know how to explain it. It was this weird, like, enigmatic thing.
Well, I'm glad you brought this up, Chase, because this is sort of my final say on the film. Maybe a final question. This is going to be a very long-winded way of getting to my question. This was one of the best reviewed films of the year, right? It's made every best of list. I'm reading straight from the Wikipedia article right here. Banshees of Inisherin received 9 nominations for the Academy Awards. At the 80th Golden Globe Awards, it achieved 3 wins from 8 nominations. At the 29th Screen Actors Guild Award, the film received 5 nominations, which tied the record for most nominations. And it was named one of the top 10 films of 2022 by the National Board of Review. Like, obviously, this was a well-renowned film, but I would say this, and here's where my question comes in. I'm in love with movies where it is just character dynamics and talking heads. But is this film too low stakes for the casual movie audience? Does this film resonate with general audiences, or is this a little too pretentious for its own good?
I'll field this first if you wanna think on it more, Zach. I consider myself kind of the layman of the podcast, the everyman, the voice of the average moviegoer, whereas I think you are probably a little more of the well-informed, educated film watcher.
Mm-hmm.
I think watching this film as a casual audience member, I think stakes is a really good way to put it. I guess I'm trying to wrap my head. I wish I had a little more time to sit with this to get a better answer. But
I got a question for you, Chase.
Go for it.
If you weren't covering it on our podcast, would you have finished it? Once you said you were a little bit disinterested in the first act.
Yeah,
good question.
I think, okay, here's what I'll say about it. So I was watching it, and I was also doing work on my computer, and I was working in Excel for my job today. As I don't know, I think I said earlier, it may have been in the Oscars episode, but I paid attention to about 85 to 90% of this film. So there were some scenes that it was in my peripheral, but I was not fully locked in. I think this is one of those films where if I had not been watching it for the podcast and you had told me to watch it, I would watch it all the way through. But whether it's just because I have ADHD or if it's more of a fault of the film, I'm gonna probably blame it on the film. I think I would have gotten on my phone a good handful of times throughout this film because there were definitely a lot of low points in the story where I felt like just I guess understimulated, kind of uninterested at times, where I didn't really I don't know. I think this movie could have been probably 15 minutes shorter, and
this is a theater movie. I
think it's
as
well
conducive to a theater environment where you don't have any sort of outside stimuli to be distracted by. Would you have watched it if you had just saw that it was up for Oscars and was winning all these awards?
If I did not have this podcast, no, probably not.
Okay.
I think I would have done the. I probably would have saw the title and thought to myself, "That's interesting," and then I would have looked it up. And I haven't read the plot summary, but if if the plot summary was anything how I described it, I'd probably be like, maybe one day, and then I would never watch
Maybe
it.
one day.
And then it would be one of those films where I'm like, I should watch this, and then I just don't.
There you go. I'm not going to speak on it because I would have always watched it purely because of how my love for film and watching good movies. But maybe I think I'd be interested to see the HBO Max numbers that it's pulling. See if it's like making a lot of people watch it.
My guess is probably not. This might be pretentious or come off kind of I don't know. This might rub people the wrong way. But I think the title of the film itself is almost inaccessible because it just kind of feels like you read this and you're like, why the fuck would I want to watch this? Like, you're just solely judging a book by the cover. It's not something that I think is I don't know. I think the average person is gonna read that and be like, this is some fucking Hollywood liberal fucking artsy shit. I don't want to see this. You know what I mean? That's kind of my read on just the surface level like take of this film.
Like the film The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford.
I would watch that in a heartbeat.
Oh, you would watch that?
No, that's me. That's me being a fucking weird little gremlin. I don't know if the average person would watch that.
That good, great film. One of the worst titles I've ever had the pleasure of reading.
Maybe we don't have to speak on. You know how I feel about someone being called a coward based on our previous work experience together when I got called a coward by a customer. So I just think I think it's so funny to call someone a coward like that, especially in the title of a film. I mean, in the Oscar recap, what was that fucking? Hold on, the best animated film though, like oh shit. Because I wanted to see that just based on the name. It was
the ostrich. The ostrich told me my little world was a lie or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know where it is, but yeah.
Zach, or Chase, I'll just throw it out there. Any final thoughts before we give this ratings?
No, I think we've covered it all. I think we've hit all the main themes. We've talked what we like and we were a bit turned off by. So I think we're good.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add. I think I've said everything I wanted to say about it.
Excellent. Well, that being said, I'll go ahead and give this a 9.1 out of 10.
Whoa. I give it an 8 flat.
I was looking at it about an 8.1 for me. I genuinely did enjoy it. I just think it was a little slow.
What'd you give Everything Everywhere All at Once?
9.2, 9.3. Right there. 9.4 the highest.
I give that an 8.8.
These are the types of films I eat up. I love films like this. I eat them up. So
there was something. I think the beginning of this film, and this I want to preface this statement by I'm very much the layperson, but I kind of felt like the interactions in the beginning and the way this film was structured for the first act kind of felt a little reminiscent of Wes Anderson in a way. The way the characters kind of interact with you, like especially the opening scene of him walking up to Colum's house and like the way he was talking to, I don't know, it was something about like the dialogue that really felt reminiscent of Wes Anderson. That feeling didn't stick throughout the film, but like mainly the first act, I really felt like this kind of felt like a bit of a Wes Anderson film. Zach, any thoughts? Nicholas?
I dig it. Yeah, I can see that in a way.
Maybe just on the cinematography, maybe.
Yeah, it was kind of like let's say this film is like you're sautéing a chicken in a pan, right? And you're throwing your salt, your pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, whatever else on it. you might take a little pinch of I don't know, chili powder, just a tiny dash, and throw it on there. That was the amount of Wes Anderson kind of inspiration I felt. Is that a good analogy? Is that a good analogy?
Yeah.
I made dinner like a few hours ago, so.
All right. So, as we said last episode, we are going to be covering the rest of the Best Picture noms that we can before the Oscars. So, what do we want to cover next week? We've already done Avatar. We've already done this.
Everything Everywhere All at Once. I'll watch it in the islands.
Or we could do All Quiet on the Western Front.
I am itching to talk about Everything Everywhere All at Once.
All right, perfect. Let's do it. It's on Paramount Plus, right? We can rewatch it.
Probably. I'll have to steal my aunt's account, but yeah, I'll watch it. I'll watch it when I'm on the islands.
All
right. Next episode, catch us at Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Also,
do you want to give them our social medias?
Yeah, we forgot to do this for the Oscars.
Oh no.
It's fine. It's all right.
And plug them now.
Yeah.
Plug them. All right. Twitter is @Closed Screening Podcast. If you're listening, you already know, but it's the Closed Screening Podcast. Anywhere podcasts are found: Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Right? That's what it's called now.
Yeah, Apple Podcast.
Google Podcasts, Overcasts, TikTok @The Closed Screening, and YouTube @The Closed Screening.
It's the Closed Screening Podcast.
Oh, on YouTube, the Closed Screening Podcast.
Correct.
Sorry.
I just looked it up.
Oh, write that down. Write it
down.
I've recently started doing thumbnails again, so
I should get a sticky note, put it right above my desk so I can always see it.
Maybe the SEO will be kind to us now that I've started doing thumbnails again.
All right. Well, I think that wraps it up here.
As always, thank you for listening, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
We'll catch you next week.
See you next time.